Matthew Hudson-Smith just stood on his home track at the European Championships in Birmingham and did something no one expected. Right after winning gold, he looked at the BBC and called them out, live, on camera. He said they got it wrong about him. He said they owed him facts, not rumors. And what he said next about his own body left everyone speechless. Let's go back one day before this happened. Hudson-Smith ran his semifinal at the European Championships. He crossed the line in second place. To most people, that looked normal. Athletes finish second all the time. But this was Matthew Hudson-Smith, the guy who had been talking about winning gold on his own home track. So when he finished second, people started asking questions. Was he hurt? Was something wrong with his legs? Was his big moment slipping away before it even started? The BBC picked up on this. They aired a segment suggesting he might be dealing with an injury. And once the BBC says something, people believe it. That's the power of a national broadcaster. One clip and suddenly millions of fans think the story is true. Pundits started repeating it. Fans on social media started sharing it. Within hours, the story wasn't Hudson-Smith finished second. It became Hudson-Smith might be injured before the biggest race of his career. But here's what Hudson-Smith knew that the cameras didn't show. He wasn't hurt. He wasn't struggling. He was doing exactly what smart athletes do in the early rounds of a big championship. He was saving energy. Think about it like this. If you're running a race with 3 rounds and you already know you're the fastest man in the field, why would you burn everything you have in round 2? You wouldn't. You'd do just enough to move forward. That's exactly what Hudson-Smith did. He eased off the gas, let his body recover, and saved his full speed for the final. He later said he and his coach were actually laughing about it. Not worried. Laughing. Because they knew something the public didn't. He even admitted afterward that he had switched off a little in the earlier heats on purpose, treating them like a warm-up instead of a battle. To him, the whole point of early rounds is simple. Survive, advance, save your legs for when it actually counts. Now here's where the story turns. The final arrived. And because of how the earlier rounds played out, Hudson-Smith got pushed all the way out to lane 9. That's the outside lane. It's usually the toughest spot to run from, because you can't see most of the other runners. You're out there alone, guessing where everyone else is. Most sprinters would call that bad luck. Hudson-Smith didn't care. He said this track was basically his backyard. He grew up running on it since he was 9 years old. He knows every stretch of it. So even from lane 9, he wasn't nervous. He trusted his legs and his experience. And there's another detail that made this final even harder. Hudson-Smith has always been known as a bend runner. His background in the 200 meters, where he's run some of the fastest times of his life, gave him an edge on curves most 400 meters runners don't have. Lane 9 meant he had to use every bit of that skill because he couldn't see a single rival ahead of him. He had to trust his own pace, not chase anyone else's. When the gun went off, he attacked. He came out fast, controlled the first bend, and by the time he hit the home straight, nobody was catching him. He crossed the line in 44 seconds. Gold. But this wasn't just any gold medal. This was history. Before this race, 2 British legends shared the record for winning the most European 400 meters titles. Roger Black had 2. Martin Rooney had 2. Hudson-Smith just became the first man ever to win 3 individual European 400 meters titles. 3. Nobody in the history of this event from any country in Europe has done that. He didn't just win. He became the greatest European quarter-miler of all time. And he did it in his own city, in front of his own family, on the same stadium that just last month named an entire stand after him. That's when the emotions hit. Right after the race, in his interview, you could see it. Part joy, part relief, and part frustration. He even said he was trying not to cry, standing right in front of his own family, his own city, and the stand carrying his name. Words couldn't describe what that moment meant to him, but mixed in with all that pride was something else. He still remembered what the BBC had said the night before. He looked into the camera and said, "I was watching a BBC newscast." "You guys need to come with the facts, man." Saying I was injured and everything. The whole point of rounds is to survive and advance. I tried to conserve rounds. Me and my coach were laughing all the way around. That single moment turned into the biggest talking point of the night. A British athlete, standing on the podium of his own hometown championship, calling out the country's biggest broadcaster to their face. He didn't stop there either, he kept going, almost daring anyone to doubt him again. He said, "I knew I was the best in the world. I knew that. On paper, I was a second faster than these guys." Then he added something even bolder. "Every time someone beats me, I kind of end their career. I knew that for them to beat me, they would have to have a supernatural moment. That's not just confidence. That's a man who has been through real pain and came out the other side, believing nothing can shake him anymore." And when you hear the rest of his story, you understand exactly why he talks like that. Because to understand why this moment meant so much, you have to understand what Hudson-Smith went through to even get here. Years ago, before all the medals, he faced one of the darkest periods any athlete can go through. Injuries piled up, money problems piled up. He lost sponsors. He was stuck overseas during the pandemic, away from his family, at one of the lowest points of his life. He later opened up and revealed just how close he came to losing everything, including his own life. That's the part people forget when they see an athlete smiling with a gold medal. They don't see the years of struggle behind it. Since then, Hudson-Smith fought his way back piece by piece. He won bronze at the World Championships. He won silver at the Commonwealth Games. He won gold at the Europeans in Munich, completing a hat trick of medals in a single season, something British athletics had rarely seen. Then came Paris 2024, the Olympics, the moment he had rebuilt his entire life for. He ran the race of his career and still came up short, losing to America's Quincy Hall by 4/100ths of a second. That's less time than it takes to blink. So close, yet so far. Then 2025 hit him with more setbacks. Injuries returned, and on top of that, he became a father, which meant sleepless nights and a completely different kind of exhaustion. He openly talked about how tired he was. So when people questioned whether he was fully fit heading into these championships, it wasn't coming from nowhere. He really had been dealing with a rough stretch. He even said this season was about starting fresh and building back up, not chasing perfection right away. But the difference is, this time, when it actually mattered, he showed up. This Birmingham gold wasn't just about beating his competitors. It was about proving every doubter wrong. All at once, on the biggest stage of his career after the race, he even joked about his own popularity in the city. He said, "Nobody is going to beat me on this track. This is my home. I have been here since I was 9. I know this track like the back of my hand. I have got my stand. Now I will go for mayor of Birmingham and Wolverhampton." The crowd loved it, because in that moment, he wasn't just their hometown athlete. He was their hero.